It's a little bit of a journey of how the program's developed and we've got to this point to date. So on your screen here is a very beautiful and warm image of the artist Henna Asikainen, who is wearing a head wreath made from white poplar leaves, sitting with a middle-aged man and woman enjoying coffee together in a green space. Henna Asikainen is an artist currently based in the Northeast who we have been working with since 2017, and her practice widely explores the connections between social justice, climate migration, and deeply considers what is cultural hospitality and what it actually means for us to belong to a space and place. Henna describes this investigation as a process of cultural foraging, and she's developed a socially engaged practice where she develops walks and interactions between individuals, families, and groups who are newly arrived to the Northeast region, and connects people together to green spaces, landscapes, and sites of significance that are often embedded with narratives connected to our shared heritage. In practice, this opens up space for conversations. The walks are very convivial, relationships forms, and these perspectives of known and dominant narratives that form a sense of place are gently challenged, and through conversation reveal nuance and multiplicity and other stories along the way. Through Henna's walks, we have met individuals who are artists, museum conservators, academics, activists, construction experts. The list of skills, knowledge, and expertise goes on. Many people are going through the asylum process and currently unable to work due to the restrictive government guidelines around this. However, many people have shown great generosity through volunteering, sharing skills and knowledge in the research and development of sanctuary and culture. Throughout our programs, we also give space to show work in progress, and International Migrants Day, which is a UN Observance Day on the 18th of December every year, was an opportunity for us to bring together a celebratory event at the wonderful Star and Shadow, a cultural venue in Newcastle, where we could really kind of provide space for artists to scratch test work in development. And here on screen, you see a young man dressed with a black hat, black shirt and trousers, kneeled on the ground with a yellow light wash. This is Hamza El Hussein, who is performing Penguin, which is an autobiographical account of his life. Hamza is from Syria and recently moved to Gateshead. And this performance was really a work in progress of that lived experience and the moments in between, supported by Amy Golden, the artistic director at Curious Monkey Theatre, based in Newcastle. We also acknowledge the rich conversations we've had across the cultural and voluntary sector in our city and further afield, notably friends and colleagues at the West End Refugee Service, Curious Monkey Theatre, Counterpoints Arts in London, and Art House in Wakefield, among many others. We have a recent cultural history to acknowledge, unpack, and value. Since 1999, the Northeast has been an asylum dispersal area, impacted in this time culturally by the communities who have resettled here, and generated many cultural programs, predominantly in the early 2000s through broadcast, music, and film. The cultural ground is rich, and we need to understand what's come before as part of building a stronger and sustainable foundation for the future. At the centre of Sanctuary and Culture is work with artists to support their professional development. And this also means an obligation and holistic understanding of the work of the Home Office, frontline support services, and also we never and will never take a personal dive into the lived circumstances of the artists and communities we work with. This is a programme that will bring about artist residencies, space to research, space to play, space to explore and connect, digital commissions, and training alongside a network and volunteer programme. I'm going to hand you over to Matt now, who's going to talk about some of the development of this programme during the pandemic.
Thank you, Andrea. So I'm Matt. So over the past year, and as part of the first steps of establishing the Sanctuary and Culture programme, we've been refurbishing a new studio space, which will act as a hub for the activity that happens through this project. And the image you're seeing on screen is a hammer and drill, which is on the floor of the studio space that we've been refurbishing. The project has been made possible through, of course, the donations of our funders, but the really generous support of the volunteers who have been working with us to support this project right from the start, from designing the space through to the kind of construction, decorating, plumbing, and kind of getting everyone together. So we've been fortunate to welcome volunteers through our extended D6 family and people who have known us and worked with us over many years in a volunteer capacity, and those who are new to us, and also through a partnership with the West End Refugee Services Skills Match programme, which you'll hear a little bit more about later. So before taking you on a virtual tour of the studio, we'd just like to say thank you to everyone who has given over 300 collective hours of their time over the past year. So to Graham, to Maz, Murshad, Mohammed, Fran, Claudia, Teresa, Ali, Felix, Simon, Brod, Paul, and Ismet, without whose help this wouldn't have happened. And this began as what we thought would be quite an intense month of building last March, and what has actually turned out to be, through COVID, a really slow and long-term process over the past year, and has been, where it's been safe to do so, a really nice moment to kind of cross over and have some connection as well during COVID. So now I'm going to move on and hope that this works to the video. So for everyone who doesn't know D6 so well, you're seeing our offices here, which are housed in this old brick building. And this is based in Newcastle City Centre in Charlotte Square, close to Blackfriars in the bottom of Westgate Road. The new studio is adjacent to our offices, and the images you're seeing here show how this began as a disused office space, and over the past year has been refurbished with a new ceiling, a new kitchen space, heaters, redecorated walls and floors. And this is the result. So the first room you're seeing here is our communal meeting space, and we're looking forward to welcoming our first guests in the coming months. It has a large middle table in the centre with white walls, and a large mirror across one off the left-hand side of the wall, and a stripy, colourful floor. The hospitality is really important to the way that we work and practice. And so at the back, you can see that we also have a fully fitted out kitchen with a fridge, dishwasher, oven, and we'll be able to use this to host monthly lunches with our artists and others working around Sanctuary in the region, as well as hosting artist talks and workshops and meetings. And as we move along to the next space, you can see this is the first of our 2 studio units. So this is a room with a pale green floor, white walls, 2 desks and chairs, and a small sofa. But this is really for the artists to make their own when they come and join us. You can also see some of the D6 plant life that has survived my care for the past year. And we're thinking about and we're hoping to listen to understand how best to use these spaces to support the artists coming to us. So there's a second studio space that is currently finishing in its development, and we're looking forward to welcoming our volunteers again tomorrow back into the space to continue working on this. So now I'm delighted to stop talking and to introduce Hannah Barnes, the director of the West End Refugee Service, to talk a little bit more about their work and the partnership between D6 and WRS that has developed through Skills Match, and how that's brought some of our volunteers to us as well.
Okay. Can everybody see that screen? Or Matt, can you tell me if you can see it?
I can.
Great, fab. Thank you, Matt, for that. That's very exciting. That's the first look we've seen. We've heard about the work going on with the new studio, but it looks absolutely amazing. So hi, everybody. I'm Hannah, and I'm the director of West End Refugee Service. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about Skills Match, which is a volunteering project, which is kind of how West End Refugee Service got to start connecting and working with D6 on this project. So I'm going to say a little bit about WRS. We are a small charity based in the West End of Newcastle. We work with asylum seekers and refugees across Tyneside, and we've been running since 1999, when dispersal started to the city in kind of larger numbers of new arrivals. We work with around 500 people a year, and they're from around over 50 countries. A lot of our work is about tackling the issues and the challenges that asylum seekers and refugees face in the UK. So we're dealing with tackling poverty, prejudice, exclusion, disadvantage, and it's lots around trying to help and solve those issues where we can. But the project where our work shifts a little bit is what I want to talk to you about today, which is the Skills Match project. And that starts really going more into opportunities. It's more outward facing. It's about trying to create opportunities for the people we work with to engage and collaborate and connect with local communities. And that's how we ended up working with D6 on this. So in short, Skills Match is a supported volunteer project for people seeking asylum and for refugees. It came from a need or an acknowledgement that the people we support bring a wealth of skills, experience and interests, but are unable to work or face real challenges accessing the work that might reflect their skills. As Andrea referred to when she was talking about Henna's work, the breadth of skills that comes through it's not surprising. These are all people from all over the world who've left jobs at all different levels in their career. So we've supported architects, engineers, teachers, welders, craftspeople, nurses, doctors, many of whom find it really hard to be able to access opportunities to apply those skills here. The asylum process can be lengthy and can be incredibly challenging. And while people can't work during this time, they can volunteer. The project itself is based around an online platform, which is basically a website, which invites individuals to make a profile which looks at their skills and interests, and then it has opportunities on the website which actually match together with those skills and interests. And the project aims to, on a very practical level, help local organisations access an untapped skills bank. It also helps asylum seekers and refugees access rewarding volunteering roles where they can apply their skills and also develop new ones. A bigger and really important part of this is about increasing understanding amongst local communities of the issues faced by asylum seekers and refugees. So volunteers within a background of the asylum system will volunteer alongside local people, and those same volunteers will create links with local organisations. And one of the big reasons we do this project is because we can see it makes a positive difference to the lives of asylum seekers and refugees. The project was developed in 2018 as part of the Creative Fuse initiative, with a very small amount of money to develop an online platform with some support around it. And it was developed very closely with a group of asylum seekers and refugees and local organisations. And the project was really shaped by those discussions. We still have a steering group which has representation of all the people who are involved in the project, and that helps us steer and develop as we go along. And I should say the photo here you can see is a young man we support who, until COVID, was volunteering every week in the accounts office of the Oxfam in Newcastle, which basically processes all of the accounts for all of the shops in the UK. So it's a really rewarding and quite specialist volunteer opportunity in Newcastle. So the partner organisations we work with are all listed here, and this isn't all of them. So pre-COVID, there was a big long list of partners. Partner organisations have volunteer opportunities. They need to be a voluntary organisation or a charity rather than a business. They have their own profile on the website. They can create and enter roles on the website, and they can also access the skills database. So they can access all of the profiles of the people who've agreed to share them on the website, who have lived experience of the asylum system. The people we worked with to develop the project, who were asylum seekers and refugees, wanted this to be a big part of the awareness raising around the project, to enable local communities and organisations to understand and see how much they have to offer and the skills and experience they bring. There's also partner agreements in place. And these really are to make sure that each organisation is kind of bought into the project and is really proactively welcoming asylum seekers and refugees. And part of this is us doing some preliminary awareness raising. As Andrea's referred to earlier, you know, that we are in a hostile situation now. We haven't seen anything like this for a long time in terms of the narrative coming out of the government and the myths that are surrounding asylum seekers and refugees. And we know that a lot of those attitudes are quite prevalent in communities in Newcastle. So a lot of what we do is just really get down to dispelling the myths. And even if people may not realise they are assuming certain things about this group of people, it's very easy to have misconceptions based on the narrative coming out of mainstream media and the government. So that's a big part of this project for us, is really just increasing understanding and increasing awareness. From the volunteers' point of view, people with lived experience of the asylum process, the support comes in the form of having a volunteer buddy who helps create their profile for them or with them, helps offer support searching for, applying for and accessing opportunities. And this was something that when we developed the project, the asylum seekers we work with said they wanted as a level of support. This is always a really positive process. Rather than thinking about problems, people start thinking about their hopes and aspirations and also what they can offer. So it's always been quite a productive part of the process. We also organise one-off volunteering trips, familiarisation visits to new organisations. This helps the organisations get to know the people we work with, and this also helps the people we work with get to know what an opportunity might look like, what a venue's like, what the setup might be. It's really easy to forget that people are completely unfamiliar with the landscape, the cultural landscape, what there is available in Newcastle, and this is a really good way of just allowing people a bit of a taster of it to see if they'd be interested in going further. I've just included some feedback here from some of the partner organisations in terms of the benefits that have been brought to the organisations who we work with. We've worked with Scotswood Garden since the beginning. We've made quite a big difference in diversifying their team, or the Skills Match project has. So on the screen, there's a quote from Sean Clay, the garden officer at Scotswood Garden, and he said, "It's been great to welcome a new diverse group of people into our team and to work alongside our existing volunteer team. It's great that our volunteer team better reflects the diverse community that surrounds us. Bringing together people from different communities and cultures has benefited us all." And his really informal feedback was they were quite concerned. They had a white cohort of local volunteers, and they'd heard certain things being talked about that implied there were quite a lot of prejudices around and misconceptions around asylum seekers arriving in Scotswood. This project's really changed that. He just said they all work along together, they're mucking together, and everyone's getting to know each other as people. The next slide shows Sadia, who you're going to hear from soon, who is a really talented illustrator. And the quote is from Izzy Hutchinson at the Live Tales. She's the volunteer coordinator at Live Tales at Live Theatre. Sadia completed a regular volunteering role here as an illustrator, and Izzy's quote says, "Through Skills Match, we have welcomed a wonderful illustrator into our volunteering family. She is extremely talented and is a delight to have in our company. Skills Match is such a valuable programme." So for Live Tales, it was really about finding someone highly skilled who could fill a role that was quite difficult to fill. Sadia was regular there, she was reliable, and she was able to kind of work alongside quite a challenging situation where she was drawing and illustrating whilst groups of children told their stories. So these are some quotes on this slide here from people who've taken part in the project who are refugees and asylum seekers. I'm just going to move my screen around so I can read all the quotes. The first quote says, "Change of environment was good. It was a good opportunity to learn about working in the UK. And this is a benefit to lots of the people we support, just helping them familiarise themselves. Volunteering today has helped improve my English and I have more understanding of local people," is one quote. The next quote is, "You can interact with different culture and age people, and in the end, you will gain confidence." And the last one was a lady talking to me on the way back from a group volunteering trip of a community event. We'd spent all day helping run a big event out in Cumbria. And she said, "This was the first time I felt useful since I've arrived in the UK, and I haven't thought about my case." I think these quotes demonstrate there's lots around skills and applying skills, but there's also a real human element to this, of people getting to know the local community, becoming more confident and feelings of self-worth, which the asylum system do a lot to take away from people. It is a really challenging time for people, and it's a waiting game where people don't have anything to do often other than wait for the Home Office to make their decision. So these types of opportunities have been really valuable from that point of view. I just wanted to include a couple of pictures here. Sorry, I'm going over time, Andrea. Should I just be very quick?
You just have a question, so I just
right. Okay.
ask you at the end. Please carry on though.
Okay. These are just some photos of people volunteering together out in the community and at a community event. And I just wanted to show these because I think it does show the connections, like the connections we've made with D6, between people we support and local communities. And we can't really overestimate the good it does in terms of increasing understanding, where people just start to work alongside each other and get to know each other. And again, there's some pictures here of this volunteering actually at WERS and also out at a community organisation. So the lady on the left was an MA business graduate. So she was desperate to volunteer in an office environment and had just talked so much around having so much more confidence to go out and apply for jobs, to get herself out there, to meet new people. So the benefits are really broad ranging, but it does come and start from the connections. And this is where we get to D6 and the story of how we got to know D6 and how Sadia and also Mershad, who has volunteered helping do up the studio, how that connection really happened. And it was back in December, I was thinking about this, it was a while ago, December 2019, when the International Migrants Day event was happening, and Andrea said she would like to involve a group of volunteers in kind of the prep and the planning of the event. So the picture on the right was a familiarisation visit with some of the people we took and support. Sadia was working with us already through Skills Match and had engaged. You can see a picture of her here below where she was volunteering at the Baltic Family Days. And also on the left, this was her at the event itself. But it was because you have a familiarisation visit, people get to know each other. It was just the start of a relationship. And Mershad was kind of stagehand to Matt, doing some quite demanding technical things throughout the evening. And both of them really appreciated, I think, being in that cultural setting, being in a setting where they could get to know people, but also really feel like they were part of the event. And volunteering can do that very easily. And it's certainly not the only way. And I think this initiative with D6 will allow lots more opportunities, but we felt where we can help as an organisation who do lots of work just supporting people is to start opening up these connections. So if someone's volunteered at an arts organisation, we know the ladies who volunteered at the Baltic now take their children back there and go and enjoy events, and they want to start volunteering regularly. We know that people who've gone to Scotswood Garden are taking their children there if they have them on the family days that they run. So it's really just building more confidence around being able to connect with local communities. And I'm going to stop talking now. I'll just show a last slide. So if you want to check out Skills Match, there's the website. And you can contact us anytime if anybody on this call is interested in being a partner. We'd love to hear from you.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Hannah. We've just got we've got a couple of questions which are wrap up into one, but people are interested in how relationships are set up with organisations outside of Newcastle, and also people to be potential volunteers who live outside the city.
Oh, so Skills Match has an ambition, which I haven't touched on here, which is to, so we're funded by the National Lottery, we're funded by the Newcastle City Council, and the other two funders there have funded us over the years. And part of our ambition with them as well is to try and develop it as a model that could be adopted by other support agencies outside of the city, because it's a model that does work, and it's a ready-made website with the ability for people to register as volunteers and the ability for people to register as partner organisations. So we'd be really happy to talk to anyone who's interested in that. Ideally, it would be a refugee support agency who would then make the relationships with the partner organisations, but we have lots of the structure around that. We have volunteer training in place, volunteer roles for the buddies and that type of thing. If people were interested in volunteering to support the project remotely, we have started doing that. So the buddy photos I showed of there were local volunteers, there can be people with lived experience supporting people into volunteering. That's now happening in the building behind screens, but it's also happening on Zoom. And we've distributed tablets to people so that they can have that relationship. So certainly people could volunteer remotely with WERS. We haven't done that before outside of the region, but yes, but if people have got questions, Andrew, you can pass my contact details on and we can discuss that further. That's helpful.
Thank you so much, Hannah. And we'll definitely, after the event, be sharing a number of links with everybody, including Skills Match. So that's brilliant. Thank you for joining us today. Before we are introduced to Sadia, I just wanted to also touch upon this last year that we've all experienced collectively. And as Matt referred to earlier on, we'd very much hoped to have the studio up and running very quickly, connecting with artists across the city and beyond. However, that wasn't to be. So as the studio was slowly being renovated during lockdown, that gave us an opportunity to think about work that was going on in the city and connect with those providing immediate relief to those most in need. MD Hamid, an activist, a law student and volunteer, also seeking asylum, set up MD's Little Help Food Bank in March at the beginning of the pandemic to deliver food to people most in need. He was receiving donations and on his bike, and again with the support of many others, taking essential food items to those who were very, very newly arrived or in dire need. D6 were able to access emergency funding support from the Paul Hamlyn Foundation that allowed us to extend this initiative from August until December last year. And with it, we met others and learned a huge amount. And again, cannot thank you enough to those who packed, those who delivered and provided essential food and sanitary relief to those in hostel accommodation and private accommodation as well. So a huge thank you. We also had interest from Action Foundation, who were recently supporting a very young man, a tattoo artist and illustrator, who started coming to the drop-in service sessions and really wanted to know how he could get access to materials to continue his work. And through Sanctuary and Culture, we devised a very new strand where we will be supporting artists informally through gifting art materials vouchers for them to continue their practice as well. So at the end of the event, we will send an email sharing all the different ways that you can get involved and support others that you have connections with as well. But now I'm absolutely delighted to introduce Sadia Sikandar. Sadia has been our first artist in residence as part of Sanctuary and Culture, and she's been absolutely fantastic through the pandemic, as we had initially planned for Sadia to be in residence at the D6 studio with us for a month, but that changed. And actually, what happened is since autumn, we've been supporting Sadia with art materials and a wider artistic network to produce new work, which she will talk to us about here.
Thank you, Andrea, for your brief introduction about me, and Hannah for praising me a lot. It means a lot to me. And so my name is Sadia Sikandar. I'm an artist, photographer, and illustrator, and I'm currently living in northeast of England. And I'm the first century and culture artist in residency at D6. Under this residency, I'm able to produce some work, and still I'm working on that. And my work is all based on the journey being asylum seeker and how the system core laws affect our lives. And the theme of my work is Meraki, which means to put yourself and to put something of yours into art. The material which I use, it's oil paints and hard sheet and acrylic sheet for texture. And style I choose, it's oil paint texture on paper. My first painting, which you can see on the screen, the title is The Quest of Freedom. The first painting is about the restriction which placed on asylum seekers. I painted a parrot as a symbol of joy, happiness, and positive energy. And I painted deliberately, not in perfect shape, because the asylum system makes the life of an asylum seeker miserable. And in the background, I painted a map with the help of coffee. It took a lot of time. And my second painting, its title is Solivagant, which means a wandering alone. And I took this duck as a symbol of a healer element from nature. And I painted an amaryllis flower as a symbol of love, beauty, and strength. And my third painting is about metanoia, which means change one's mind and heart, self, or a way of life. I painted a butterfly, half portion in spring and half in bleeding, by hoping that it will heal soon, because we all facing a lot of trauma in our life. And we always believe that it may be not healed soon, but maybe at some specific time of period, we will go through with that trauma and with all the such problems. So this is all about this. And I think this is all about, and Andrea will share the link with you in the chat, so you can have a look at my overall and more detail of my work. And I would like to say thank you, D6, for this opportunity, because I was looking for this opportunity from quite a long time, and I started residency and you were so cooperative overall, and your team was so kind and humble, especially Andrea and Matthew. I want to say a big thank you, because it took a really hard work to complete that video and all the images which you can see on the screen. And if you have any question, you are most welcome to ask, and do share your opinion about my work. Thank you so much.
Sadia, that's wonderful. It's always great to hear you talk about your...
Oh, thank you so much. Same here.
And what we've just shared in the link with you all is a link to a digital presentation that is really a journey of Sadia's work in progress. And as you mentioned, Sadia, some of the themes and ideas behind the work and that have informed the work as well. I just wondered, Sadia, if you could tell us a little bit about your journey as an artist before you came to reside in the UK.
I have done my master's in fine arts in 2012. It's in painting, and I participated in a lot of exhibitions, like in the USA and in England, in London as well, and in India as well. And I think I had in Pakistan, and it's a non-stop, like, it's hard to count how many exhibitions I participated in, national and international, especially national wise. And because it was easy for me to participate being in where I was living in that country, because it took so much time, and it takes a lot of other extra sources and a lot of difficult procedure to go through with the international exhibition, but somehow I managed that. So it was all a wonderful experience I had faced in my past experience. But because of my being asylum journey in the UK, it's all stopped, and I was quite frustrated that I can't able to do something like this in the UK. And I was like, things which I was able to do that easily in the past, and I started facing that quite difficulty to draw that. But when I did illustration with life tales, it was quite helpful. And I got the next opportunity with you as an artist, with your D6 studio. Then it enhanced and it helped me to like which things I forgot, and like I can't able to continue practice that. I can able to start working on those things again.
Absolutely. And I think we've had many discussions between us because
Yeah,
the
so
pandemic has meant we've worked in a very different way to how we thought we would have. And in a way, it's been a huge positive, because we hope to have you in the studio at D6 if the future allows. And we hope to continue to support you going forward. You touched a little bit upon difficulty in accessing the arts in the UK. Could you tell us a bit more about that, Sadia, or if it's been even possible to find where you can connect with other artists?
I think when I came to UK, I thought like for artists, I think like how can I found my kind of like opportunities like in this country. Then when I met like Hannah, and then she introduced me about Skill Match project, and then she gave me the opportunity to work with Life Teams, and then later with Baltic Art Gallery, and then later with Star and Shadow to organize their event. I think I start having a hope that I have I have a future over here, then I can do something over here as well. Otherwise, when you are not allowed to do work and you are so creative person and hard work person, you can't sit alone in the house and do nothing. So it's better to avail the opportunity to do volunteer. So I availed that opportunity, and I had a wonderful experience, and I'm glad that I availed those opportunities. And I able to meet a lot of people, wonderful people, and they had a wonderful team, especially Baltic and Life Tales. I always felt like that, like they are my family members, not like strangers.
Absolutely. And Sadia, what are your future aspirations for your work? How would you like your practice to develop?
I think I've done a little bit work with acrylic, with like the texture or pen texture on acrylic sheet, and then to do texture on the hard paper. And I think I will a little bit continue that by adding a little bit more something modern thing in the modern calligraphy beside that. Not just a simple calligraphy, but in a very modern and unique style. And I'm really working on that. So I'm doing practice little bit, so that I can have, when I'm satisfied with that, have a look on to put something on that on the final board, then I can share with you that as well.
Fantastic. Sadia, thank you so much for joining us today.
No, it's my pleasure to join you always and whenever you invite me. And it's lovely to see the audience and to hear the feedback of my work.
Great.
So whatever the people have any question or they want to share their opinion, they're most welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Sadia.
It's my pleasure.
And thank you to everybody who's contributing in the chat to make connections and commenting on the work. We really value those, and we'll share those as well after the event. So really a few words in conclusion and what's next. We're really delighted to have with us in May the artist Dima Karut, who is actually on her way as we speak to Newcastle upon Tyne on a train. On the screen here, you will see a previous installation produced by Dima called The Tunnel, which has the text, "There is a black and white sky in the Syrian conflict, only shades of grey and too much red." In front of that are barbed wire, there's photographs and also text with a young woman with her back to the screen immersed in the installation. Dima's artwork reflects on human journeys and investigates the evolution of identity beyond borders, belongings, and the metaphor of home, migration, displacement, and the relation between people and places. And we're really delighted that during her residency, she is going to reflect on the power of art in times of conflict. So we're really looking forward to sharing more with you when Dima comes to the region. We would also invite you to tell us how you would like to connect to Sanctuary and Culture. We're very interested in artists across the board who are currently residing in the Northeast that may indeed be going through the asylum process or indeed are resettled. We're very interested in connecting with cultural organisations, voluntary organisations, and as Sanji has asked in the chat, the potentials to connect with businesses would also be very interesting. We are open. We will be delivering training with WERS in June this year as well, particularly for cultural sector workers that need to build their knowledge around asylum support, law and services as well. So as I said, we will follow this up with an email with all this information, and we warmly invite you to be part of this journey that we are beginning. So that leaves me to say thank you all so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure to share with you the journey that has been taken so far. A huge thank you to everybody that has been part of that to date. And a special thank you to Hannah and Sadia for joining us today. We look forward to more. Thank you so much and goodbye.